Hi everybody, our learning objective in English this week is to retell the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and we started to look at doing that yesterday. We talked about how we might start the story, and I chose to start mine with once upon a time. Yesterday we looked at how we need to make sure we do everything in the right order. So we talked about what happens first in the story. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She decided to take her grandma a basket of treats and she walked off through the forest. Next, she met a big bad wolf. And the big bad wolf rushed on ahead to get to Grandma's cottage before her. So yesterday we talked about the first thing that happened in the story at the beginning of the story, and then we talked about what happens next. Today we are going to think about then. What happened then? So we're thinking about something that happens then. So we just looked at there was next Little Red Riding Hood met a big bad wolf in the forest, and the big bad wolf rushed ahead to get to Grandmother's house before her. Then the big bad wolf hid Grandma in the closet and dressed up as her in the bed. Little Red Riding Hood looked at Grandma and said, "Grandma, what big eyes you have!" And Grandma said, "All the better to see you with, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood said, "Grandma, what big ears you have!" No, and Grandma said, "All the better to hear you with, dear." And then Little Red Riding Hood said, "Grandma, what big teeth you have! All the better to eat you with." And the big bad wolf jumped out of the bed and tried to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood, but she ran away. So we're going to think of just one sentence that we might write at this part. So we might just write, "Then the big bad wolf pretended to be Grandma." We might write, "Then the big bad wolf tried to eat up Little Red Riding Hood." I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at writing your own sentence for then. Then we start coming to the end of the story, and the word we're going to use here is the word finally. So finally, Woodman Will came and rescued Little Red Riding Hood, and he chased the big bad wolf away. So that's our finally sentence. Finally, the woodcutter saved the day. That could be your sentence. Finally, the woodcutter chased the wolf away. In the story that we read, finally, the woodcutter arrived at Grandma's house and the wolf fainted when he saw the axe. So I'd like you to write a sentence for the finally part of the story. And that means that this week you will have written first, next, then, finally. You should have one sentence for each of those parts of the story, and you'll be able to use them to help you retelling the whole story using lots of language, and we'll be coming on to a little bit more of that tomorrow. So don't forget, today you should have two sentences, then and finally. I can't wait to see your lovely sentences to help you with telling the story of Little Red Riding Hood.